Now, there's another issue here that I want to address, and that is I believe it was what's called the humane gospel, and that is this suggestion, not a suggestion, but this teaching. I don't know, maybe it came from the Essenes, or I think it's the Essenes, and they claim that God never he never requested any burnt offerings or animal sacrifices, and this leads to eventually, I think, people saying that God never required a human sacrifice, and the human sacrifice they are speaking of is Christ dying on the cross for us. So if they say that God never requested I'm not human sacrifice, but animal sacrifice, they say that this is something that was added by the scribes or added to the Bible. And another thing they go on to say is that the sacrifices that were offered by Cain and Abel were actually switched around, and that this is part of a deception as well. And so all of this really comes down to another attack against the King James Version Bible. Now, I know there are things like in the King James Version Bible that maybe could have been translated better. Some things are not quite clear when you read them, but eventually, God gives you an understanding of what they mean. But the thing is, when we start saying that things were added to the Bible and taken out of the Bible, we are really, I think, we're really on thin ice. It's just, it goes, it's like one thing leads to another. And invariably, a person who loses confidence in the scriptures will eventually, well, I can't say, because some people, it depends on the person. If someone is truly saved, then they won't be deceived. But for those who are not quite there, who are not born again, but only have head knowledge of God, once they begin to doubt the scriptures, then it's a slippery slope. And this is one reason why I do not make videos attacking the King James Version Bible. And unfortunately, I find that many people who do make videos attacking the King James Version Bible do not have faith in Jesus Christ. But just speak a little bit here first, speaking on Adam and Eve. And this is why it's important to understand what happened in the garden, because it's going to connect to this whole thing about the animal sacrifice. So when when God is speaking to Adam and Eve about the sins that they committed, let's see, where am I looking for? I should have had this ready. Okay, punishment of mankind. In verse 17, Genesis chapter 3, verse 17, we read, "And unto Adam, this is God said, because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree which I commanded thee, saying, Thou shalt not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for thy sake. In sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. Thorns and thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field." And here is the issue. "In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread." And since we're here, let me just bring up another point. God told Adam that he was dust, for dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. It's interesting that he told the serpent that the serpent would eat dust for the rest of his life. Where's it at? Well, it doesn't matter. That's besides the point. I'm going to try and stay on point here. So he told Adam that in the sweat of his face shall he eat bread. This is what the tiller of the ground, the person who has to till the ground or to deal with the herbs and the fruit of the ground, has to do. This is what he has to deal with. He has to do this in the sweat of his brow. So let's go back to Genesis chapter, well, it's the same one. Genesis chapter 4, where we have Adam and Eve, not Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel bringing their sacrifices, their offerings, I should say, to God. And went down too far. Okay, so in Cain, and starting at verse 3, and in the process of time, it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground and offered it unto the Lord. Now remember, he had to bring of the fruit of the ground, just like Adam, in the sweat of his brow. So he was bringing his works. And Adam, in Abel, he also brought of the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof. Now, I know it's not easy work to take care of animals, but at the same time, the creatures that God created are somewhat self-sustaining. You really just have to watch over them to make sure they don't get taken by a predator or fall into a ditch or something. But with the fruit of the ground, you have to bring that forth in the sweat of your brow. So it's no wonder Cain was wroth, because he was probably thinking, I put so much work into this, and you're not going to accept my offering? After all the hard work I put into it, all the toiling and the sweating and this and that, you're not accepting my works? So when they claim, these people who claim that God did not request animal sacrifices, claim that Cain and Abel's sacrifices or offerings were switched around. Now they're making Abel a worker, and Cain is the one who is bringing the offering, the righteous offering, and Abel is bringing the works of his hands. So whether they know it or not, they're changing the gospel into a works gospel. So when you hear people saying that this is switched around, their offerings are switched around, that God didn't request animal offerings, or that Jesus Christ didn't even eat. Some have said that there was no fish when Christ broke the 2 fish and the 5 loaves of bread. Some people say there weren't actually fish. Some people added that to the Bible, they claim. So these subtle little things can completely change the entire Bible. You try to say that Cain and Abel's offerings were switched around, we have a completely different gospel here. Now Abel was justified by his works, if that was the truth, if that was the case. So I won't name, I'll just name one. So the most recent person I heard this from, and it broke my heart, because I see how far, there's such a thing as going too far down the rabbit hole. And some people who are looking for truth are going too far down the rabbit hole. They get to the point where they begin to doubt Christ. They get into other gospels. They get into all this other stuff. And this one person who was a truth seeker, who I believe has fallen off the rails, is Simona Rich. Now, she seemed all right at first, but now she's going Hebrew roots. and in this, abstaining from meats. Now, if you want to abstain from meats, that's your business. But to teach people that the Bible doesn't actually tell us to eat meat, and that God never requested animal offerings or animal sacrifices, and that was added to the Bible, now you have completely, like, you haven't even fallen off the rails. Your train just completely exploded, and the earthquake is split and split the ground open, and everything is just. So that's sad. I mean, that's heartbreaking. That's sad to see. But that's what happens when people go too far down the rabbit hole. We got to trust this Bible. Because if we don't trust this Bible, there is no truth in the world then. And I guess I don't know if I should do this or not, but I have a message, that a conversation between me and another person on YouTube who teaches a certain subject. And I wish I could show you this conversation without revealing their identity. I'm going to actually try to pause this to see if it's possible for me to do it, because I do think it's a good, it's good for people to hear it and know. All right, so yeah, I'm not going to scroll down because you would actually see who I'm talking to. And there may be some information in this post that gives away their identity, but for the most part, most of you may not know who I'm talking to, so I'll go ahead and read this. So, in this, this is a follow-up message to a message that I sent the person before. And the reason why I sent it is because they had put out some videos on the King James Version Bible that I thought were potentially dangerous for baby Christians, and I brought that issue up, and there seemed to be a lack of concern for the Christians who may have their faith overthrown by this video. And so I contacted them privately, and after and I've expressed that concern. And since I did not get an answer from them, I sent another message. And it reads like this: Dear sister, I haven't seen an answer from you yet, so I'm going to just say this. Whatever you believe is your choice, but you need to be upfront about it. Your audience should know. Why would you not readily disclose your beliefs about Jesus Christ? If it's the fear of rejection or the fear of man, you're choosing the fear of man instead of the fear of God. If you're simply unsure of what you believe, then you do not believe at all, not to the saving of the soul at least. In that case, all of your focus should be on that question of who Christ is, because there is not a more important question in this world. Trannies can wait. The videos or the exposés of transsexuals can wait. Bottom line, whatever you believe regarding Jesus Christ, you need to be open about it so that people know where you're coming from. So we have here a person who I believe has gone too far down the rabbit hole, either that or they were not saved at all. And that's kind of what I'm leaning toward. The person would never have faith in Jesus Christ at all, because I do believe that once a person is truly saved, they're always saved. Once a person is born again, adopted, a son and daughter of God, then that's it. You are then born again. God does not, the salvation is the gift of God, and the gifts of God are without repentance. He does not change his mind. Now, you will be chastised, and you will be chastised, and you will be chastened with a rod. And I believe God will make you wish that you had never chose to sin after you have become to the knowledge of the truth. But God cannot, he just like you cannot disown your daughter. Why? Because, or your daughter or your son. Why? Because no matter what you say, they are your blood. They are your offspring. You cannot undo that. You cannot make them someone else's offspring. Just like being born again, you become adopted. You cannot undo that. So once you are truly saved, you are saved. So if you think you are saved and you manifest traits of not being saved, then chances are you were not saved at all, and you were only deceiving yourself. And some people, I don't believe that they fall away and become Satanists or completely lose faith in the Messiah unless they never had that faith to begin with. And that's what I believe is the case here. And I just wish the person would be upfront with their viewers and tell them, hey, you know what? I don't actually believe that Jesus Christ was the Son of God. I believe that he is a deception. I believe the New Testament is deception, and so forth and so on. They should just let people know that up front, rather than have Christians come to their channel and then subtly slip doubts into their mind about the New Testament, about the Bible, about Jesus Christ, and so forth and so on. And this is, well, I guess I've said enough about that. So I don't want to make this video go on too long. So thank you all for listening, and thank you for watching, and Jesus bless you.